Oh, there we go. There we
There you
go.
go.
That's what we call a stinger in the business. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the FiveStack. It is Thursday, and we are in Toronto. We are in the beautiful country of the Americas, or otherwise known as the United States of America. Sorry, let me restart that. We're in Canada. We're in America. And we're in Poland today with a Danish guy, and that's where we're going to start the FiveStack. That is Zev Shalev, narrative.org. Give him a sub. That
Hey,
is Jacob Karsbo. He is Danish intelligence, joins us from the streets of Poland in a 90s Ford Transit. What are you doing in Poland, dude?
I love this scene. Yeah, tell us about it.
Well, we're actually driving in a convoy right now of about 10 quite old vehicles, 4x4s, little trucks, even an old ambulance that we're going to be hand over to the Ukrainian armed forces in a couple of days. Yeah, that's it.
You drove all the way from Copenhagen or Denmark and then to deliver these?
Yeah. It's actually we collect vehicles and people submit funding to purchase older vehicles on various platforms, and then there's a bunch of guys that organize it all, and we drive them through Germany, Poland, and then across to Ukraine, and hand them over to the armed forces.
How long a drive is that, just so you know?
How long is the
Yeah,
drive, Jacob? How,
that's the
how,
It, 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 it's a long drive because Poland is actually a pretty big country, and these vehicles, it's not as if they can drive really fast. So we'll be at our hotel near the border at around about midnight, which is 3 hours from now. We're close to the big city of Krakow, if you know that. That's in southern Poland,
mm-hmm.
which is quite scenic and a very nice city. And then we approach the Ukrainian border, and we left Copenhagen about 14 hours ago. Uh, we traveled by ferry for a couple of hours through to Germany, and then the drive down here. Yeah.
So tell me something. Jacob Karsbo joins us, former Danish intelligence, UN Security Council member, and he's an intel officer. He is a humanitarian, and we've had you on several times now. But you know what amazes me about the EU is the familial connection they have to Ukraine. It's the effort that countries like yours, small country Denmark, we'll get to some U.S. stuff in just a second, is continuing to bootstrap, just regular citizens. I know you're a Danish intelligence guy. You probably come in handy on these sorties, if you will. But help me understand what went into you taking a convoy of old vehicles. Talk a little bit about the charity. Talk about the goodwill towards the Ukrainian people from Denmark, and just kind of lay it out for us as
Yeah.
to why and how you got to where you're going and where you're going now with these vehicles and what happens after.
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine has so much support in Denmark. We often complain quite a bit that a lot of Danes don't get all that strategic stuff, etc. But the support for Ukraine is really has deep roots. And I was actually on an Australian TV show just the other day, and I was trying to explain that out of 179 members of the Danish parliament, whenever we vote to support Ukraine, there's 179 members that vote yes. And I think there's never been an issue less divisive in Denmark that unites everyone. And I think if you do like a survey, it'll only be about a couple of percent of the Danish population that thinks it's a bad idea. So yeah, it's that makes it easier for us because it's not politically divisive.
The
So what's the organization that you're with, and how did you do this, and what are you traveling with, and where do they
Yeah.
go? What are you doing?
Yeah. It's actually started already in 2014, because remember the Ukraine war actually
Yeah.
started in 2014 when Putin annexed Crimea and started the war in the Donbass. And it started by a Dane that lives in Kiev, and he has his own company in Kiev. And he started collecting vehicles from Denmark and have them driven to Ukraine. And then after the full-scale invasion in 2022, it's kicked off, and it's actually convoys of 10, 15 vehicles each month that we send down there, and it's actually just called Cars for Ukraine in Danish. Quite simple, and then, of course, they do collection for in kind with vehicles, but also people can support with money, and yeah, and it goes quite well, and it's easy to get drivers. We're a bunch of 20 plus people driving down there now. This is my first trip, but a lot of these guys have been there quite a few times on these trips. Yeah, there's a lot of commitment. There's actually on this trip there's also a family. They were going on vacation, and they decided to wait and go on vacation later, and then have a trip to Kiev instead,
That's
which
incredible.
is yeah, you just have to take your hat off, right?
Absolutely. The Ukrainians really need these supplies. Obviously, we're experiencing a real shortage right now on the front lines there. Russia's still pursuing, quite an aggressive strategy to take all of the Donbass. So this is stuff that they surely will need, and will be grateful to receive.
Yeah, exactly. And they're used, behind the front lines for logistics and to transport wounded soldiers, get them out of harm's way, etc., etc. So they have a short lifespan, which is why they can really use vehicles as long as they can make the trips from Denmark to Ukraine. The Ukrainians do whatever they need to do with them, and then they just get them to the front lines where they need them, and they come to good use, and they don't necessarily survive long, but that doesn't really matter, because this is about having the number of vehicles to do these tasks, and it's really, yeah, it's beneficial.
It's crazy to me is that here in Canada, North America, obviously, the media ecosystem gets filled up with all the Trump bullshit. It gets filled up with all the the anti-Trump bullshit, anti-Russia bullshit. We never kind of go down and narrow into a conversation about how other EU countries feel outside of headlines, and to hear you talk about the near 100% level of support of the Danish people. And by the way, Denmark, Finland, Baltic states, the happiest countries in the fucking world. And to give your time to go down and do this, and to see the sacrifices somebody made. Because listen, I don't know how old you are, Jacob. I'm 52. 20 hours in a fucking car is a massive time commitment, right?
Yeah, I'm only 55, but
Why do you look 100 times better than me? It's like,
Is it the lighting or?
it's because of all the makeup.
yeah, no, but it just like tune us into that, because this is kind of a really unique moment where we've got you in a car in Poland on the way to Krakow, heading into Ukraine, which is contested territory, Russian invasion, illegal invasion of Russia. Do you have any concerns? Are you okay? And are you just dropping these cars off? Or are you going to go to? Are you going the full Monty, heading to Donetsk and going, here you go, while you cover, right?
Yeah, no, we're going to Kiev. I'm staying for a few days to talk to a few people and to get more of a feel of how it's going. So I have meetings for a few days. This last time I was there, I went to Dnipro, which is closer to the front line. Spoke to the general staff based in Dnipro, to get a sense and to discuss the military supplies that they needed, because they know that people like us that are out of government now still do a lot of advocacy work outside of government, and talk to our politicians and make sure that they are alert and aware, and the commitment stays there. So we received with open arms in Ukraine. Now, from my dubious past in the intelligence service, I know that this thing of military tourism, as we call it, when people just come to talk and do no good, is not a good thing. So I'm also quite hesitant not to be too pushy.
Mm.
But if they ask me and they invite me and say, yeah, yeah, we want you there and so on, it's all cool. And I would say Ukraine is a huge country, and when you're there, it's not as if you feel, under fire. I mean, back in the old days in Baghdad, we were under fire every single day, not every hour, but close to every hour. This is quite different. I mean, when you're in Kiev, for instance, you have the alarms, the air alarms, because of drones and all that shit. But you have to go and go to the cellar or wherever you hide in the metro system or wherever. But really, it's a huge city and it's a huge country. So I mean, it's also dangerous to go on these roads, and it's dangerous to drive around Copenhagen. So it's not, some people, for them it's really frightening, and I don't want to sound like a hero, but you know it's just something you get used to, and really it's not that uh, I don't want to it's tough for the Ukrainians because they're woken up almost every night because of the drones, etc. And that's the really what terrorizes them now, is that they have to take cover every night, and that's also a strategy by the Russians to keep the Ukrainians awake and to terrorize them and make life miserable and do their scorched earth tactics, which is terrible.
Mm.
So I'll just show you a funny clip here because my co-driver here, Mogens, he's a good guy.
Hi,
And
Mons.
Right.
point one, this vehicle is really cold. There's no heater in it, and what he was doing now, he was trying the windscreen because the air won't come through, so it's getting a bit foggy in here, but we'll make it.
It's the foggier side of war. These are the things you don't realize is that you got grown ass men in their 40s, 50s, entire families, a 20 person convoy. And some of these vehicles are derelict and they don't have the ability to actually defrost. And this is the sacrifice you're making, which is incredible to me. It's fucking unbelievable. Can you talk a little bit? I just kind of want to get a Cole's Notes version. And God bless you for doing what you're doing, even though I don't believe in that God. But bless you for doing what you're doing. Bless the Danish people for standing up for the Ukrainians, to put yourselves in harm's way, to to drive 25 hours in a car with no air conditioning or heat as we approach winter in the heart of Ukraine and Poland. But talk a little bit about state of the Russian army, because I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah,
I read a couple
I
of
mean,
reports the other day that said last legs. They're literally trying to grab like tanks out of museums. They're literally, I read a report today that 17 South Africans, by the way, up your alley. Zev is a South African. 17 South Africans are found over in Ukraine, and they're like, "Hey, we thought we were coming here to kind of do some work for the Russians. We didn't know we'd be sent to the fucking front lines." But talk a little bit, because like not just leaks,
exactly.
but major cracks in the narrative that Russia is
Yeah,
going to win this war, or like they're on their last legs, as far as I understand.
yeah. They well, it's hard to grasp, but the thing is, Putin's whole strategy is to seem invincible and thereby weakening the political resolve in the West. And that's how he has succeeded to even make it this far. And, through getting mercenaries from Africa, etc., 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 he keep patching up his miserable army, but they just want to get us, this sense that they can grind on, and essentially no one knows how long they can keep going. But that's why we have to show the resolve, and we have to make sure the Ukrainians get the weaponry they need, and then hopefully they can break them.
I'd love to hear
But
about.
they will just try and convince us that we can't break them.
Can you tell us a little bit about the sanctions that were supposedly imposed on the oil sector in Russia by Donald Trump?
Rosneft and Lukoil, I
Yeah,
think.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah, yeah,
does
yeah.
that is that really being enforced, or
yeah,
is that just another scam by the president?
exactly. The jury is still out, I have to say, but my best guess is that it will be a scam
Mm,
because I have not seen any evidence that Trump has tried to put any pressure on the Chinese. He just had a summit with Xi. Apparently, it wasn't raised at
mm,
all because Trump admitted that himself, that it wasn't raised, that he didn't want to talk to Xi about it now. And I don't think he's going to put any pressure on because the Chinese knows that Trump was in a weak position, so they weren't gonna budge,
yeah.
and they essentially got what they wanted at that summit. Of course, Trump says it's successful and all that nonsense, but it wasn't. And second thing is, you may know that tomorrow the European Trojan horse, Viktor Orban, is
Mm,
in Washington
right.
D.C.
Hmm.
And you know who imports Lukoil like crazy? Viktor Orban.
Ah,
Hmm.
interesting.
And Trump said last week that he had not granted the Hungarians a an exemption, but he didn't say he didn't want to grant them an exception. You
Right.
know, many I saw some media where they said, "Well, he has refused an exemption," but he hasn't. That wasn't what he said. He said, "I haven't granted one, but Orban is my friend."
Right.
Mm.
So it looks like that'll
So
happen.
yeah, keep a good eye out tomorrow because if Trump really wanted to do something about this, he would school Viktor Orban, the Weasel, and say to him, "Okay, you cut it out right now." And but he's not gonna do
Well,
that.
of course, if Trump wanted to do anything, he could have stopped this war a long time ago because he could have supplied
Yeah,
the Ukrainian military with what they needed to defeat the Russians. Never mind
yeah.
these sanctions. He's obviously not interested in doing
So
that. So that's where we're
yeah,
at. That's why you're driving
it
all this
will be
way.
piecemeal enforcement, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's something where he has like blinked with the had a cut a little deal with Putin and said, "I need to do this because I'm under pressure," and blah blah blah, and then they do something where they can wiggle around it. So
Yeah, but
yeah, it
let
wouldn't
me ask you
surprise
this.
me the least.
I love how you called him a weasel, Viktor Orban. But explain to
Yeah,
me, because this is something, and then we'll let you go because I know you gotta, go light a fire by the side of the road to warm up. But let me explain this to me because I read a report the other day that said that it was official that Hungary's intelligence service was completely integrated with the FSB at this point, right? Is that
yeah.
accurate?
And that would be my best take that it's compromised. And I tell you, there's no European intelligence agency that will share anyone because that would run anything they would run a huge risk. And I'm also quite confident that intelligence sharing is being cut with the US because you can't. How would you convince a Russian to work for you if you can't convince the Russian that you don't share it with the US and send it to Langley? I mean,
Right.
that's incomprehensible, right? No Russian in with a bit of brains would do that.
No.
So obviously that's why the Dutch came out and said that they were cutting down on intelligence sharing recently,
Um, ca-
which I have never heard about a European service say anything like that before, and I
right.
was shocked. But I will say, could it be that that's an effort to convince Russians to work for them? You know, that's why
Right.
you say publicly, So you'd rather want that way to get some Russians to work for you, and then risk the political wrath of Donald Trump. That could be the calculus.
Interesting.
Okay. So it's super interesting. Let me kind of go down that road a little bit, because I think, before we let you go, I kind of wanted to get an opinion of you, opinion from you, not of you, because if you give me your opinion of you, it'll be glowing. But I want to get an opinion from you, because the United States just pulled Leventhal out of as an ambassador.
Yeah,
Pardon me. United States just pulled Leventhal as an ambassador from the U.S. ambassador to Denmark out, and they put this new
yeah.
guy in, some dude named Ken Howell, I think is his name. I could be wrong.
Howery,
He was interviewed
Howery.
several times over the past couple of days, and he went and visited King Frederick. And I don't know if anybody knows anything
Yeah,
about Denmark. They got a king still, right? There's a few countries that still actually do that, which is kind of cool. And was asked after, he's like, did you guys talk about the United States being interested in invading Greenmark? Not only did he get shut down and yanked out of that scrum immediately, he was asked today five more times. He completely jettisoned the idea, or just tried to sidestep the idea. Is that
yeah.
still on? Is that top of mind for the Danish people right now?
I think it is, and I have to say I've been on TV quite a bit these last 24 hours, and reminded people that Ken Howery is not just some civil servant that is doing an innocent job, because he's actually supported Praxis Nation, is which is
We're losing you
a,
there. Jacob, we can't hear you anymore. I don't know what's happened. They just give it a
an
second to reset here a little bit. Maybe it'll pick up again.
organization that advocates.
Dean, I don't think we're going to get Jacob there. Jacob, can you hear us? We can't hear you, and we can see you.
For
Can you hear us at all?
for the takeover
All right.
of Greenland, and to wrestle that main financiers.
We're gonna have to leave it, Dean, because we lost. We lost Deed. We lost Deed, and it appears like we may have lost you, Jacob. I don't know if you're still there. Can you hear me? No, we can't hear Jacob, and we can't hear Dean. I'm going to try one more time, see if this connects. Dean, Jacob, can you hear me? All right. Well, I am just going to talk a little bit while we try to figure this out, because it's only me now. Finally have control of the show. Dean's away. Just kidding, of course. Let's see if I can get Dean and Jacob back in here now. Little technical issues. Here they are. Hey, Dean's back.
Hi guys, sorry. My apologies. I missed your entire answer, Jacob, because I lost audio.
We all lost it. We all lost it, and I don't think he's there anymore. Jacob, you can't hear us, can you? I think it's just us two now. The signal's obviously gone. It must have been pretty contentious what he was talking about.
It might have been, yeah, because we got shymied, we got screwed over, we got hammered. So my apologies, but man, oh man, I mean, listen, to be able to have a guy like Jacob Carsbo, and by the way, follow on Substack, Jacob Kaarsbo. Former Danish intelligence guy, former UN Security Council member, like just an all-around good dude who's literally taking time out of his life, like days out of his life, to go and support the people of Ukraine, to drive derelict cars down there with no heating. Like, I don't think we understand, and that was what was so moving to me, Zev, is I don't think we understand the effort that citizens in the EU are going to be able to send people what Ukraine needs when they need it, as we watch, governments specifically like the United States government just walk away.
It is remarkable that they are, he's willing to put the actual legwork in to bring these weapons, to bring these not weapons, these supplies to the Ukrainians. I mean, there's a lot of people who sit around at home and talk and pontificate. I'm one of them. You're one of them. To actually get in a car, drive, how many, 14 hours or something like that, just to get across these complicated countries, but also to find yourself in a war zone in order to drop off these things is quite a sacrifice for anybody to make. And obviously, he really believes in what he's doing. Obviously, the Danes are really behind the Ukrainians and have done a spectacular job in supporting them at a time when the United States has really failed the Danish people. They really have. And we see that. Sorry, the Ukrainian people,
and continue to threaten the Danish people through Denmark, through Greenland, sending this asshole U.S. ambassador Ken Howell, I think is his name, to sit there and do Donald Trump's bidding. Went and visited with the King of Norway the other day, the King of Denmark, and was asked about it. He said, "You guys still want to annex Greenland?" He's like, "I don't want to talk about it." Was yanked out of the scrum, and was asked 5 times today if they plan on annexing Greenland. If I'm Denmark, and I like to follow Jacob's rule, like take a fucking hard line, get that guy out of there. I am telling everybody in the United States Embassy in Denmark to fucking leave. Leave.
I mean, they say threatening the country, and they really continue to do so. It's part of their agenda, and absolutely, there's no reason why they should engage. Of course, they're Danish; they're not going to do that. They're going to do a much more quiet diplomacy, I imagine. But that's we need the Danes. We need some people like the Danes to be calm and sensible and negotiate this. But it is horrific to think that their territory is being threatened by a NATO ally. It just seems unquestionably stupid. But here we are, isn't everything out of this administration unquestionably stupid?
Anyway, that was number 5 in the FiveStack. That is Zev Shalev, narrative.org. What's that? It was just a bonus? We just did a bonus interview? Oh, we're going to have to hustle. Then. We're going to have to rip through this.
We could do this in 20 minutes. Okay, number 5.
All right, buddy. All right.
A D.C. jury just acquitted Air Force veteran Sean Dunn, the sandwich guy, of assaulting a federal officer despite his admission that he threw a salami sub at a CBP agent during Trump's law enforcement takeover of the city in August. The not guilty verdict marks the second major defeat for U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, formerly Fox News' host, aggressive prosecution strategy. She's coming 1 month after another jury acquitted protester Sidney Reed on identical charges, and after grand juries refused to indict Dunn on felony charges that could have meant 8 years in prison. Dunn's attorney successfully argued the sandwich throw was a harmless gesture, which of course it was, and also a political protest, which he's allowed to do. And also Jeanine Pirro is really not equipped to do this job. But it's great.
She's too drunk. She's too drunk. I love how you just added that in. Also, Jeanine Pirro is not equipped to be the Attorney General of Washington, D.C.
Well, because, first, these are kinds of charges that should normally go to the state police or the city police. She's like the federal U.S. attorney. She's throwing these charges on these guys who are throwing sandwiches.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's serious crimes that happen in that region. I'm sure there's things that she could focus on that were not related to a sandwich guy throwing a sandwich at a protester. But he's become a cult hero now.
Dude, Banksy did a sandwich guy like throwing effigy, and they put that around the United States of America. Banksy did another sandwich guy thing in London, England this last month. Listen, sandwich guy, if you're listening, and I know you're not, good for you. Way to go. The real victim here is that $13.99 cold cut combo that hit the ICE agent right here in the body cam area where there was no body cam. That was the real shame of this whole thing. I cannot get over, and I say this all the time, the deal that these guys continually make about things that are not deals. These examples that they continue to bring up where they're like, and I go to Stephen Miller's wife, Katie, who's the antichrist of females, by the way. I go to her all the time. And, any criticism, they will go to the cancellation well all the time. If you watch Cenk Uygur on Piers Morgan with Katie Miller the other day, he's like, hey, Cenk's like from Young Turks. He's like, hey, your husband's the most dangerous man in America. And she's like, you hate Jews. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Same thing with the sandwich guy. Just a microcosm. It was like, that was a dangerous assault on an ICE officer. It was a fucking cold cut combo. Like, it was a sandwich. You got a little lettuce and some mustard on his outfit. You guys are, fitting everybody up. It wasn't an assault. It was none of those things. And it just goes to continually show how weak, how cucky, how beta. And I use this word from time to time. And if you're offended by swears or perceived swears, turn away. These guys are such pussies. They're the biggest bunch of losers I've ever met in my life. They run around calling themselves beta with this whole tough guy attitude, and Trump like, oh, America's all strength. They're they're trying to throw a guy that threw a sandwich at one of his fake police officers a sandwich. They're trying to give him 8 years in fucking prison, and they're calling this a major judicial travesty today.
And meanwhile, these CBP officers can be incredibly violent against other people, and they don't get any charges. I mean, they've been wrestling people to the ground, going, entering people's homes at night, taking away children,
reverends with
chemical
pepper bullets in the head.
Like, nothing happens to them. Meanwhile, they can't handle a sandwich being thrown at them. I mean, give me a break.
Sandwich. God bless. R.I.P. to the sandwich. That was the real victim in this whole mess.
Exactly. And Sean Dunn, if you want to come on the show, we'll gladly interview you anytime, because who wouldn't want to interview the sandwich guy? You're a legend right now. Now, here's another big story that's developing at the Heritage Foundation, which is quite a big one. So the Conservative Heritage Foundation is in open revolt after President Kevin Roberts defended Tucker Carlson's interview with white nationalist Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes, triggering mass staff defections, donor withdrawals, and what senior employees describe as an absolute shit show where Roberts has lost control of the organization. Internal messages reviewed by CNN show Heritage staff calling it flailing and in damage control. And this is what everyone was responding to. This is the message that Roberts put out on social media the other day, which, is shocking.
That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right. I disagree with, and even abhor, things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either.
What?
When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And we have seen success in this approach as we continue to dismantle the vile ideas of the left. As my friend Vice President Vance said last night, what I am not okay with is any country coming before the interest of American citizens, and it is important for all of us, assuming we are American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first.
I'm going to stop him there because I can't handle listening to him, but that is appalling that he's willing to call the left ideology vile, but he's not willing to take a stand against Nick Fuentes, for his clearly, anti-Semitic remarks that you can't see it any other way. This is an interesting thing that's developing on the right wing. You've got a Nazi movement building up inside the Heritage Foundation, inside Tucker Carlson, inside Nick Fuentes, and that they seem to be getting support from the vice president himself, the future president, possibly.
If you know anything about Nick Fuentes, and I'm immune to hate speech. I'm not one of the guys that runs around there going, "Oh, I need to get my Nick Fuentes or this guy's take on something." That guy's, he is. Let me give him his bouquets before I absolutely cut his legs off below the knee. One of the great communicators of our time, which is what makes him so dangerous. This gentleman is a self-avowed Nazi. This gentleman has praised continually the acts of Hitler, the Holocaust. This gentleman, and I use that term really fucking lightly for everybody that's like, why are you calling Nick Fuentes a gentleman? Because it's going to come up. This person, this unfortunate human being, this mistake of an individual, has yesterday called J.D. Vance's wife, say what you like about her, Usha, who is a Muslim, called her a jeet, called J.D. Vance a fat gay dude who loves Jews. He talks about how much he loves America, hates Jews, talks about how much he loves America, hates anybody that doesn't identify as a hardcore Christian nationalist. He is one of the worst human beings on the fucking planet. Tucker Carlson is not far behind, but he gets paid a mint for it. He gets paid a lot of money by Russia to run interference and introduce these terrible people into the atmosphere. For the gentleman from the Heritage, and if you know anything about the Heritage Society is a white Christian nationalist violent lobby group that helped fund January 6th, helps fund some of the most hateful bullshit against migrants, the LGBTQ community. One of the tenets of the Heritage Foundation, which is fucking disgusting, is to make America white again. That's to make America Christian again. It's anti-abortion. It's taking away abortion rights, human rights from anybody, and bringing their Christian belief system, that evangelical MAGA cult, bringing the laws of the Bible and instituting them for the laws of the United States, so that the United States can be governed by Christian nationalist laws that comes from the Bible. So all those things being considered, Tucker Carlson believes that, died in the wool racist. Nick Fuentes believes that, complete racist. And for Mr. Roberts, who's the CEO of the Heritage Foundation or the chairman of the Heritage Foundation, to say that this is just a big tent is some of the most fucking unbelievably disgusting speech I have heard in so fucking long, because it is easily verifiable that Nick Fuentes is a fucking Nazi incel. I watched a soliloquy from Nick Fuentes, again, great fucking communicator, which is really a shame. Talk about how he's an incel, he hates women, he's never been with a woman, and he wants to control women's bodies. And he said this the other day. He's like, your body, my choice, bitch. He said those things. He said Hitler was a great leader. He said the America needs its own Holocaust. I mean, like, this is a terrible fucking human being. But for Roberts to say that, well, Tucker Carlson's a good guy and we should just be exchanging ideas. These aren't ideas. This is why hundreds of thousands of Americans gave their lives in World War II.
Yeah, and these are not ideas that we want to be talking about anyhow. Look, it's great to see the Heritage Foundation falling apart. It's great to see the infighting within the right
and that's
wing.
The other thing. That's the other thing. If you want to know about the cracks in MAGA, read about Roberts, read about the Heritage Foundation, read about how angry the world is. There was a UFC fighter, and I can't remember his name, who was a massive Donald Trump guy. And he came out, he's like, I would give my life for Donald Trump. He might get it wrong sometimes, but he is going to fix America. He's going to do all these things. 2 days ago, he came out, he's like, guy's the Antichrist. He fucking fooled me. You watch that blue wave rush across the United States, and all these former Trump supporters go, he fucked us. Latinos, millennials, people between the ages of 18 to 49, some of the biggest demos that turn their back on this guy. It's because they know he's a charlatan. They know that everything that he speaks, everything that he tweets, everything that he truths, everything that he talks about is meant to take their agency away. The cover is coming off the wrapper right now. And for MAGA to have this division after they went full Monty with Charlie Kirk trying to canonize him as a saint, trying to consolidate that MAGA base, this is just more of the same. But Donald Trump fucking courted this, Zev. You and I both know that, when he invited Nick Fuentes and Kanye West down to Mar-a-Lago for dinner a few years ago.
They're all courting him, unfortunately. Number 3, President Trump announced an agreement with Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk to slash prices of the blockbuster weight loss drug Ozempic, and also Wegovy and Mounjaro and Zepbound and all these other drugs that have been, promising you to lose a lot of weight. Fat drugs, basically. Now, he's lowered the starter dose to $149 monthly and injectables to $245. With some copays as low as $50. The deal expands Medicare coverage for obesity treatment, and it's a big deal because a lot of people are on this drug. It's also incredible how they rushed this to announcement after losing the election yesterday. They really needed a crowd pleaser. They got one, but that isn't the biggest story of that whole thing. There was why don't you set this up? Someone collapsed, I guess?
Yeah. A guy named Gordon Finley. He's the CEO of Nova, which is like the other big drug company that did that deal with him today. I don't know if you saw the video. Listen, nothing encapsulates the disaster, which is the Trump regime's time in office over the past 10 months, other than the video. Do you have it?
Are you okay?
There he goes.
Gordon,
there he goes. There's Gordon. He's passing out. Whoa, hey, you okay? Dr. Oz is in the house. That's good news. Probably gave him some of that Turkish Tylenol before he left. Did you see RFK Jr. just leave the room?
Yeah, it's going to read back here and we can watch this. Keep your eye on 2 things. Firstly, that's RFK right behind him on the left, behind the guy speaking. Now watch as he realizes the guy's down and he just tags, he leaves the room.
I'm leaving.
Yeah, he's out of there. Which is like, you're in charge of the health department or whatever it is you do. Good for Dr. Oz.
That's the Health and Human Services Secretary, RFK Jr. Look at him. And he's like, Fuck, I'm out of here.
But good for Oz. Oz is really good here.
Yeah.
He really responds well. He runs up, and before the guy even hits the floor. Now I'm sure this all has to do with the odor. He's standing so close to Donald
He's
Trump.
so close to Donald Trump, and apparently, according to everybody, and I heard this
Why
like
does he
yesterday.
Sorry, don't you laugh. I hope he's okay. But,
Oh, I hope he's okay too. Apparently, according to the White House, who you can't believe, Gordon's going to be fine. Gordon Finley, CEO of Nova, he's going to be okay. He just had a moment. He just had a vasovagal reaction. He just decided to pass out. But I had to wonder, like, is it the odor? Because apparently, and there's this new report that just came out where, like, all these White House insiders that just left are like, Donald Trump smells like dirty diaper and throw up. That was.
But it's apparently true. I mean, apparently the guy just does not smell well, which doesn't surprise anybody. And that's why nobody likes to sit next to him ever. Number 2 on the countdown is this story out of New Jersey. You remember there were bomb threats in the last election? Well, there were bomb threats as well in Tuesday's election. And it's now been proven that Russian-linked bomb threats forced the closure of multiple New Jersey polling locations on election day. So authorities have traced emails to Russian addresses that included detailed pipe bomb schematics and threats to detonate devices within 11 hours. The coordinated attack targeted at least 7 New Jersey counties, including schools in Passaic and Patterson, forcing voters to be turned away for 2 hours and leading a judge to extend polling by an hour after Democrats argued the threats were designed to suppress turnout. Well, they sure were. The marks on these election results are the Russian operatives have deployed bomb threats against American polling places. This is what they do now. They did this in Georgia. They did this in Arizona and Pennsylvania in 2024. Anyone still want to tell me that it's a Russian hoax? I've got a bomb to show you, or a bridge.
I got a bomb threat to show you. This was a big story in 2024. Is there were 21 different bomb threats, and all of those bomb threats were in swing states.
Yeah.
Every one of those bomb threats came from a foreign country. I did a little research the other day. 80% here in Canada of Pierre Poilievre's Twitter social media support comes from foreign accounts. In the United States, that number is closer to 90% for Donald Trump.
Wow.
And you have to treat, this is the shitty part, you have to treat bomb threats like they're bomb threats. Right? Someone says, hey, there's a bomb planted at this polling station in New Jersey, Virginia, California, Prop 50. They had 2 bomb threats called in California, and we didn't hear anything about it. This is the dangerous part of where we're at, is that it's not just, a very small group of Americans that are willing to militarize and put themselves in jeopardy so that Donald Trump can stay in office. There are several foreign governments that really, 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 really want Donald Trump to stay in office, because outside of Donald Trump being the president of the United States, Russia's war in Ukraine is over, right? Viktor Orban is not Viktor Orban. He's gone. And the cabal of assholes that Donald Trump seems to find himself attracted to, it doesn't have the power and the influence that they have. So these bomb threats, specifically yesterday, and I give, elections, election workers, I give, people that are still within their right sound mind that investigated these things and allowed people to continue to vote, all the bouquets, all the flowers, because you have to treat these bomb threats as if they're serious. But if you wondered, if Russia was still involved, take a lesson from my friend Zev Shalev. These are Russian addresses. Same thing that happens here in Canada happens in the United States. The goal is to keep that piece of shit in office for as long as humanly possible so that Russia, other anti-democratic countries can continue to damage the United States of America and scare the shit out of the American people. But it's the resolve that I loved from the people in New Jersey, from election officials, from people that actually investigated this and said, no threat. This is from Russia. And it happened within 7 minutes. I don't know if you read that. Within 7 minutes, they're like, do we shut it down? They're like, just wait. No, don't shut it down. People continue to vote. There are still good people in the United States of America that are able to make those decisions, and that should be encouraging for the United States.
Plenty of good people, and considering the results of Tuesday, that it's remarkable what's been going on. The Trump administration at number 1 has announced unprecedented 10% flight reductions at 40 of America's busiest busiest airports starting on Friday, tomorrow, affecting travel at hubs from Atlanta to Los Angeles and Chicago O'Hare, as the government shutdown, it's now the longest in U.S. history, enters its second month, with 700,000 federal workers, including air traffic controllers, working without pay. You mentioned this the other day when you were flying to Orlando. It's not a safe place to be in the air in the United States, and this is why this is unprecedented. You want to bet the government is going to get back in order pretty quickly when the entire FAA is cutting back so many flights.
I'll take people through my experience. So it was last weekend. I fly down to Orlando to visit a friend who was in need. Broke my boycott. Really, really hurt my pride, but I did it. Because people are more important than any political ideology or any bankruptcy or any boycott. So went down to Orlando. No problem getting there. Get off the plane. Go do my 3 days. Come back. Check into my flight. And have a longer than average experience checking into my flight, even though I checked in. They want to check you. And they had all these different people working the counter that were just contract workers. They weren't working for the airline. And I said, well, tell me why. And this lovely young lady, it was Halloween. She's got her Halloween garb on. And she's like, well, because of the government shutdown, they've tagged us in and we've got someone that's helping us which is why it took longer than average, much longer than average, because they didn't know what they're doing. And I go, is it safe to fly right now? She goes, yes. And she did it like this. She's like, yes. And I'm like, okay.
Kinda.
So we get to the gate and I'm sitting around listening to some people kind of overhearing conversations. There was a Canadian couple that had just been on a cruise that had to spend an extra 4 days in Orlando. 4 days.
Yeah.
Actually, they were in Tampa, had to go to Orlando to catch this flight because they had been fucked over 4 different times.
Oh, wow.
Not because WestJet, Air Canada, the airline of their choice, wasn't flying back to Toronto. It's because they did not have air traffic controllers, baggage handlers, all the people that make the airports work. Those are federal employees. And I said, well, explain that to me. They were like, the government stopped paying all these people. The United States government stopped paying all these people through the Trump-Epstein shutdown. And I'm going to call it that because it's exactly what the fuck this is, the Trump-Epstein shutdown. And so people just aren't coming to work. And I go, oh, that's fascinating. And then I talked to another individual who worked as a federal airline employee, airport employee in Orlando. And I'm like, are you getting paid? He goes, nah, dude. He goes, after this, I got to go drive Uber for 10 hours.
Why would you go to work this is one of the most dangerous, trickiest jobs in the entire world, being an air traffic controller. You're going to work for free? Maybe they'll pay you back at the end of all of this. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm so glad that they are calling in sick, because unless the public feels the pressure of not being able to fly when it needs to, unless there's a consumer demand for these flights that is not going, Donald Trump is not going to relent as quickly, although he should after Tuesday's elections. But this government shutdown is now beginning to affect consumers in a way that is going to really start hurting the GOP. And maybe Donald Trump was onto something there when he said that the shutdown was the real cause of his dramatic loss of the GOP Tuesday in those elections.
What a moment of clarity, right? Like that's how you know he's finished.
Yeah.
Is because he has nowhere to run other than going, yeah, it's the government shutdown.
Yeah.
I guess I got a lot of people blame Republicans. Listen, all of these things are terrible, but all of these things all the conversations we had today in the FiveStack point to one thing, and that is that the end is nigh. The beginning of the end is here. It's not just, the blue wave. It's not just, the disaster, which is, federal aviation in the United States. It's not just the cancellation of SNAP benefits for 42 million people. It's not just the anger and the meanness and the mean-spiritedness. It's not just the attempt that the GOP and MAGA are making to rip healthcare away from 20 million Americans. It's all of it. It's all of it. America is on its fucking knees right now when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to how that country works, when it comes to customer service, when it comes to keeping travelers safe. I don't know if you saw the UPS flight that literally in Louisville, Kentucky, it was a UPS flight.
Incredible.
Like it was just, and they're still trying to figure out 12 people dead. They've had more air disasters in the United States this year than they have any other year. They've had more furloughed employees walk away from their jobs in the airline industry as a federal employee than in the history of the United States of America. This will be the first year since 1974, I believe, maybe 75, where America's immigration policy led to a decrease in the population as opposed to an increase in the population. The travel industry in the United States is on its fucking knees, not just because people are afraid to cross the border for fear that they'll get thrown into a fucking concentration camp, but nobody trusts anybody who's not getting paid that's supposed to land a fucking 747.
Yeah.
It is an unmitigated disaster in the United States right now. And if I could tell anybody one thing, and that's just from this story, it would be do not get on a plane for the next 3 years or until that dickhead is out of office. Do not get on a plane. Do not take public transit until former Big Brother enthusiast and actor Sean Duffy turned transportation secretary is no longer the fucking transportation secretary.
Oh my gosh.
Don't do it. Don't.
And that is the end of the FiveStack today on an impassioned note from Dean Blundell. DeanBlundell.substack.com is flying high right now and has amazing stories there, some of which we captured today, but many we didn't. So please check out DeanBlundell.substack.com. Give him as many subscriptions as you can. He deserves it. Man works so hard. You are nonstop at this. I don't even know when you wake up in the morning to get all your work done.
4.
Oh my gosh. God bless
Yeah, I
you.
love it though. Well, I love it. I think we've got a responsibility. You know, one of my subscriber followers is a beautiful woman named Courtney. She's just lovely. So many of you. You put your faith in me. You put your faith in us. You put your faith in these conversations, and I feel like it's my civic duty. Not civic duty because I'm Canadian to help Americans, but civic duty to help humanity. Specific duty and very specific duty to affirm people's values, affirm what they know to be true. And you do the same thing at narrative.org. You know, your greatest heist series, the prologue that's coming out, you cracked the code. You're not doing that because you're getting rich off it, because you're writing a book or you got to deal with Penguin.
No.
You're doing it because you have a duty to warn. And we've got a duty to serve the people that not just subscribe here. And by the way, I've been blown away again. We're doing founding memberships. I didn't have any the other day. I think we're up to 8. Would love to get to 10, maybe 15. At Substack here, deanblundell.substack.com. I think it's $150. You'll get a lifetime subscription. I know Lev is maybe the greatest value for what he does. Sorry, Zev is maybe the greatest value for what he does as well. Walking you through the entire context and history from 10 years of research to be able to help you understand why America matters, why the Epstein files matter, why muckraking, which is kind of what we do, why it really, really matters. It's not about reporting or writing for the brand. We just get to be in your life. You get to be in ours. We get to do this every day. So sharing this by hitting those hearts, sharing the, and getting this to the top of the algorithm. Same thing with that little square in the box in the bottom with the arrow, sharing that with people, hitting that Chiron at the top, following us, subscribing to us, free or paid, doesn't matter. Sharing, subscribing. It not only keeps us in your world, it keeps you in our world, but it also helps other people understand what's at stake. You're not hearing any of this shit on social media. You're not seeing any of this stuff on mainstream media. You're hearing it from people that have the nuts to be able to go out and go, well, here's the deal. Because it's great risk. This is a risky time for people to do what we do. So thank you. Thank you for giving us your time today. Thanks for joining us for the FiveStack. Make sure you go to Zev Shalev's narrative.org. Make sure you give him a sub. His greatest heist series prologue, book 2 is coming out. You can get the review for book 1. I read both today. Dude, you're on it. Like, there are very few people who have the understanding you do, and well done.
Thank you. It's going to be a really interesting thing. And tonight at 7:30, I've got a show that we're going to do where I'm just going to unpack what we did in the Greatest Heist 1, but also set up what's going to come up in Greatest Heist 2. So if you read the prologue and you liked what you heard, this is really going to be an interesting series. And, you know, the thing about the Greatest Heist is it's a book written in real time. So I'm still writing it as you guys are influencing it, as you guys are surfacing new information. As there's new information that comes to light, you're getting a book that's evolving as it's happening. So I've got a plan of what the whole thing looks like. but it changes week by week depending on what you might say to me tonight on our special show or elsewhere. So it's a real interactive process in terms of writing this expose, which really takes the lid of 2008 and shows you how it was engineered to cost you a lot of money and to basically bail out the bankers who were responsible for all of it. So all of that is coming up tonight at 7:30, plus at 7, Olga Lautman with the Trump Attorney Tracker. And Dean, we'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock for the FiveStack. Check out deanblundell.substack.com. That's the FiveStack. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Bye, guys.